Hi, in this lecture, I will talk about how to write into a files. One of the most commonly performed data processing tasks is to read data from a file, manipulate it in some way, and then write the resulting data out to the new data file to be used for other purposes later. This is similar to the input process output program, except the input and output are files. When writing to a file, now don't forget the \n if needed. So when you write a file, you basically write a string to a file, and the \n, which means the new line or line feed, create a line feed in the file. Without that, you do not have a line feed. You will just have one long continuous line. So in this example, let's look at this example, how we write to a file. So I have a file. You do not see test.txt over here. So I will write to a file called test.txt, txt. And after I run that, you will see that test.txt get created with this content. Okay. So notice that if I create if I say my file.write, the write method write to a file, say this line has no line feed. And if I run this and take a look at test.txt, this line had no line feed. I did not add a line feed, the \n, the file does not have a \n. If I want to have a line feed, I need to add that in. Now the line has a line feed. You can, when you write into a file, you can also pass the file name to a file. I can pass the file name to a file and let the file name to a function and let the function open the file to read and do whatever you need to do, read and write to a file. Or you can also pass a file object in the function call. You can open the file outside the function and then pass the file object in the function call. Both of these are acceptable, depending on what you want to do. I typically pass a file object to a function. So I open the file outside the function and then pass the file object. It's up to you. You can pass the file name to the file, let the file open. But in this way, the function need to know a lot more about the file structure and everything. And if I pass the file object, then the function does not need to know what is the file name, what file name to write to, and some of the structure. That's typically what I use. So let's look at this particular example. I read one line in the file, but I could have used a for loop. For every line in the file, I called the string upper method to convert into uppercase. So if I look at this function here, I run this program, and it creates test file upper. So the test file, original file, looks something like this, and the upper, I change everything to uppercase. Remember that the read line and the read lines keep the new line character. When you read the file, you keep the new line character. Depending on the test processing, you may not want want to remove the new line character. So always look at check your output to see whether it is correct. So let's do a couple examples to see what I'm talking about. write a program that read a file and print only lines contain the word ping, P-I-N-G. For example, if the file contains these lines, these are just from the Raven, it should display these 3 lines. And in the PyCharm, I set up, let me see, the raven.txt. So I want to open this file and look for line word certain substring. So I call this program look for substring. So I am going to call a function look for substring. And I have an input file object, and the substring I'm looking for. Right now just say pass. I will add more statement after. So let's open the file. And the file name is Raven. And open for read. And since the look for substring going to print the line in the file, I will just call look for substring, pass in I file, and let me look for PING. And don't forget, close the file, and let's run this program. It will not do anything. So now, what are we going to do here? Well, remember how to process a file? Since we're looking for line that containing PING, or line that contains whatever the substring that we are looking for, why not process the file line by line? And we remember line is a string, a line in the file. And I'm looking for the substring. How do I check whether line contains substring? Think about that. The easiest way is using the in operator. Remember I said in operator is probably one of the most commonly used operator. If substring in line, if substring contain, if the line contain the substring, then print line. Okay, that look good. Let's see what happened. So we run this. It looks like it's working except for blank line. Again, I want to remove the blank line by adding the outstrip to strip the white spaces on the right hand side at the rightmost side of the string. And now the new line, the blank lines are gone. Keep in mind, using the for loop process line by line, it will make the program a lot easier to process. Let's do another one. Write a program to read message file.txt and print the content of the file line by line in all uppercase. And when you have that working, then write the output to a file named upper.txt. So the message.txt, which I prepare, message file.txt, it's just a 2-line like this. So we are going to write a program that's going to read the file and convert each line into uppercase and then print it. So I call it upper, and given the file object path, just make it syntactically correct, and we are going to open the file, and the file name is message.txt to read. And then I'm going to call the function upper and pass in the I file, the input file, and don't forget to close it at the end. And when I run this, you will not see anything. I mean, if you don't see anything, it's good because it doesn't do anything yet. I'm just looking for syntax error. Now we can concentrate on the upper function. Again, I like to read line by line. It just makes the program a lot simpler to follow. So for line in file, for every line in the input file, I want to convert the line into uppercase. That we call a uline is a line dot upper, and then I can print uline, the upper line, and let's see what happened. I forgot again. I forgot to strip the \n. You can strip the \n in here or over here. So let me just put over here when I get the upper the uline, and let's run this. Now I have the uppercase version of the line. And let's write that to a file. To write to the file, let's modify this program and that accept out file, the output file. So let's pass the out file here, and I will open the file. I call it O file for out file, which is called upper.txt for write. Don't forget that. And I will close the file at the end. So now instead of print to the line, I want to write to a file. So I will use out file dot write to write to a file, and I write the uline. Now earlier I stripped the line, the \n, so that when I do print, it did not print the um, like a extra blank line. Take a look at what happened here. If I run this program now, and it create a upper.txt, there's no blank line in between. I mean, there's no new line in between. I remove that. So when I write to the file, I want to keep that \n. If I keep the \n, I will remove the .r strip here. I keep the \n, and when I run the program, now you can see the line stay the way they are. The \n got read in, it convert into uppercase, the line convert into uppercase, and write to the file with the \n. And that's the reason I said, take a look at your output. Right into the screen, you might want to remove the \n so that you do not have a blank line. If you write to the file, you might want to keep the \n. Otherwise, you will have to add the \n yourself when you write to the file. For example, if you will have kept the .out strip, then you need to add the \n here when you write to the file. And when you run that, you will have the same effect with two separate lines. There are more exercise problem, and I will work on this when we meet in class.